About a week from now, or at least it should be a week from now, Like a Dragon Pirate Yakuza in Hawaii releases, or Pirate Yakuza, or Majima Gaiden, or Pirates in Hawaii, or whatever you want to call it. It features everyone's idol, Goro Majima, as a pirate who goes around punching people and sailing ships and all that sort of stuff, and it's all very exciting. Now, a while ago, I released a video that detailed a bunch of little changes, additions, or other sort of features that would appear in this upcoming game back when Tokyo Game Show was on, and they were showcasing a demo of the game. But since then, we've yet to still have a public demo. However, Sega has been gracious enough to give us plenty of informative videos about what to expect, most notably the Like a Dragon Direct, which just showed off as much of the cool gameplay stuff as you could ever possibly need, without just showing the ending of the game like the Japan side like to do every 20 minutes. So, because they've done my job for me, I thought this video would just be going over some things that haven't been discussed in too much detail that have made me excited to get the game next week. So, here's what to expect, and what to hope for, with the game that I will just call Pirate Yakuza or Majima Gaiden from now on. So first of all, I'll give a little context to things that some of you probably already know all about, but to those of you who don't, despite not being called as such in English, in Japanese this is the second Gaiden game, with the first being The Man Who Erased His Name back in 2023. It also is the next action-based game, as the last game in this series was the turn-based Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth. Before the first Gaiden, the previous release was a remake of an older game, but the newest game was Lost Judgment, which Gaiden was almost entirely built off of. So, considering RGG Studio reused 90% of their game with each new game, most of the stuff in this one that isn't brand new will be from Lost Judgment, Gaiden, or Infinite Wealth. With that out of the way, it's time to talk about what is always my favorite part of each game: the combat. If you've watched that video I mentioned earlier, I'll try not to repeat myself too much here, but again, this game features two main fighting styles, Mad Dog and Sea Dog. Mad Dog is a new and super welcome twist on Majima's iconic fighting style, which in 3 games, Yakuza 0, Kiwami 2, and Gaiden, you could actually play around with if you wanted to, which, to be honest, wouldn't blame you if you didn't want to use it, because it sucked. It had like 2 attacks that did nothing, and a counter that was actually useful, so you just sit there for an hour waiting for your enemy to swing so you could stab them. But fortunately in this game, from what I can gather, it looks like it'll be actually good. And I mostly say that because it's been sort of fused with Majima's thug style from Zero, which wasn't actually good style. He also has the Sea Dog style, a more weapons-based style which seems just about as good. It looks like it might be the classic thing that they've been doing since Judgment, where one style is better than the other for dealing with groups of enemies, and the Sea Dog style with its range and large area of effect attacks might be that style. But in the last Gaiden, the second new style that wasn't based off any previous fighting styles had a lot of experimentation in it, some of which worked and some of which didn't. We'll have to hope when this game releases that it just works, and the little toys and gimmicks don't take away from its capabilities. But you see, the 2 fighting styles thing has many problems. Judgment and Gaiden both only had 2 fighting styles, a red one and a blue one. Judgment's blue one, called Crane, had nothing unique in it besides its attack animations. Everything it could do, Tiger, the red one, could also do, but better, with the only exception being a couple of hit actions that attack multiple enemies. So that meant that 50% of your theoretical toolkit sucked. Gaiden was a bit better in that respect, and fortunately thanks to some cues from Lost Judgment, the blue one was still worse, but in the end only because the red one was better, if you know what I mean. Lost Judgment had an expansion where you played as a guy called Kaito, who only had 2 styles as well, but because those 2 were based almost entirely on 2 of Kiryu's 4 from Yakuza 0 and Kiwami, they didn't feel lacking at all. Why am I bringing all this up? Do they really look like one of them will be bad again? Not at all. I can tell just by looking at it that these 2 styles have such a ridiculous amount to offer. Both styles seem like they have a myriad of tools, and it seems like there won't just objectively be one that's better than the other. I hope I'm not proven wrong, but it really looks like 4 styles have been smushed into 2, which I'm not at all opposed to so long as it's fast, fluid, and most importantly, fun, especially since I spotted something that made my knees weak. I noticed that sometimes when you dodged an attack in that Tokyo Game Show demo that it would go slow-mo. Why is that, I wondered? It's only because the best mechanic ever has returned: the secret and hidden arts abilities from Lost Judgment. Oh, I'm so excited! I don't know what benefits they'll provide in this game, but in Lost Judgment you would dodge an attack in Crane, land a charge finisher in Tiger, parry an attack in Snake, or land a counter in the boxing style, and each of them would give their own unique buff to Yagami that once upgraded you could extend and keep them going, and man. I mean, Kaito in his DLC had them too, with you needing to parry an attack with light attack and bruiser, and perfect gun and attack and tank, but they were just so much fun It's just fun things to play around with, and they added incentive to use the other styles, and that stuff was something that Gaiden omitted for some reason, so I'm glad to see them return in this game. Now for some more glowing. In that other video, I pointed out the enemies were glowing white and doing some strong looking attacks. I still don't really understand all of the mechanics, but I can tell you that these special finisher animations in this combat trailer are some sort of counter you can do to these attacks. I don't know if you have to perfect guard them or not, but that seems like that's how you uniquely counter them, and I can only assume there'll be skills you can unlock relating to them. There's actually quite a number of skills to unlock too. This game has 174 purchasable abilities, which is quite a lot considering there's only 2 styles, compared to Lost Judgment, which had 184, and Gaiden, which only had 119. But one thing I'm hopeful for is that these are like Lost Judgment rather than Gaiden. Gaiden had a lot of abilities that you could purchase that were very clearly filler abilities. For example, you could dodge an attack in extreme heat in the agent style and press grab, which would let you do a special attack, but you could also unlock 2 other attacks that would let you press heavy or light attack after dodging. These 2 both did the exact same thing pretty much, but were 2 separate upgrades, instead of all 3 attacks just being available in one purchase, like Lost Judgment did. Lost Judgment did definitely still have some worthless abilities, and it also still had filler like the 500 different health upgrades. So Pirate Yakuza probably will still have some stuff like that, but I guess we'll just have to wait and see. There's a shitload of rings too, which act as the usual equipment from other games, which I assume will mostly provide stat bonuses and resistances, but I also assume, based on all of their other games, that some of them will provide unique effects. It would be cool to see if maybe some provided some unique abilities or something cool, but I think the extent of their specialness would just be stuff like the War God Talisman from other games, which constantly regenerates heat over time. Overall though, the combat looks absolutely savage. In the brief 3.5 minute section from that RGG Direct, they've given me everything I could have possibly needed to become addicted before I've even played it. Will it be as good or perhaps even better than Lost Judgments? Who knows? But you know what Lost Judgment doesn't have? Big ass fucking boats. Since that last video, they've shown off a lot more of the ship exploration, the ship combat, the ship activities, all sorts of ship you can do on your ship. Once again, I think they've done a good enough job explaining most of the stuff to do with it, but long story short, it really is like the naval stuff from good old Assassin's Creed 4, as everyone was sort of hoping for. Now, knowing 1, RGG Studio, 2, Japanese developers, and 3, my own bloody luck, there'll be some interview or some comment that'll point out that the actual inspiration for all of this was some omega obscure Japanese exclusive SNES game called Shinpo Shabri no Boken or something. That was actually the only inspiration, and I'm apparently an ignorant dickhead for not knowing, because seriously, if the big inspiration for this stuff wasn't Assassin's Creed 4, then I don't know what the hell it was. Anyway, it seems like it's actually going to be like Black Flag if it was much more arcadey. Moving the ship around, and more obviously the weapons or your crew, sort of prove that, as you don't really realistically move around and just have giant laser beams attached to your sides. Part of the seafaring adventures include various islands for you to visit, and although there's a large map to explore, the islands vary from areas you can actually explore to levels that act like a combination of the Colosseums from the other games as well as the Battle Dungeon from Ishin, and I'm excited to finally see something else like the Battle Dungeon. Some things I haven't heard anyone mention, although I'm sure I just forgot, is that much like Assassin's Creed 4, and maybe the obscure SNES game, your crew will occasionally sing some sea shanties as you sail around. To give you my honest opinion on them, they sound kinda cooked. I don't know why they're singing like that, but I suppose nothing could ever be on the same level as the sea shanties from Assassin's Creed. There are also these speed rings scattered around the sea, which on top of your boost means you get to sail around super quick. However, this is now 4 for 4 on my theory of the developers played Spider-Man 2 recently and thought to chuck some stuff from that game into their own one. First of all, it was the air combos, which are much closer to how Insomniac's Spider-Man does them than it is to Devil May Cry. Then it was the Spidey senses that Majima just casually has. Then there was the grapple hook thing, which also works in some ways like the web grapple attacks from Spider-Man. And now, well, I mean, do these look familiar to you at all? Oh, plenty of games have speed... Yeah, shut up. Look, it's Spider-Man. I've still not played the game, obviously, and considering they've never done this pirate stuff before, I have no experiences to compare it to, unlike the main combat. But Yakuza speedrunner Froob, who... Yeah, dude, like, real original username. As you guys all know, I speedrun on Twitch under the name Groob, so this dude's just copying me. Anyway, doesn't matter. He's got a very long video on his YouTube channel, which I'll be sure to link somewhere, as he was actually invited to an event not too long ago to play the game, and if there's anyone I trust out of all of those people who got to play it that would share cool, interesting, or notable bits of information, it's him. And so, considering a majority of that video is ship stuff, well, that's where you can go for your fix. But that event wasn't the only one, and I figured I may as well talk about it. One of them was held over in America, the other, which Frood went to was held in London. The American one, I think, was held in the back rooms of a convention or something, where people got to play the game and drink drinks and eat eats, and there was a stage and they got Majima in real life and whatever. The one in England land was on a real pirate ship, or at least as real as you can get when you need to get a bunch of people on to play on expensive hardware. Now, I didn't go to either of these because I live on the opposite side of the planet, but regardless, them not just doing these sorts of things in more recent time, but being able to justify doing them, I think is pretty significant, as it really goes to show how far the series has come in really just a few short years. Now, originally this section of the video is me talking about how they still not made that demo public, but of course this entire video was made before they made an announcement at the State of Play. In case you haven't heard, it should be an hour after this video releases, there'll be a demo for Pirate Yakuza that's available on Xbox, PlayStation, and PC. But of course, I'm not recording this an hour before the demo releases, which means I just have to keep waiting for it, and even then, it's not the full game. I can't wait anymore. Sega, please, I just want to play the full game already. Please, just give me the game! Anyway, back on the Assassin's Creed stuff, I'm gonna go on a little tangent to end this video. I understand that it's just a joke, but many people are quite humorously calling this Assassin's Creed Black Flag 2. But did you know that this would actually be Black Flag 3? That's right, Ubisoft already released Black Flag 2, but in their boundless stupidity, downplayed the shit out of the game to promote Assassin's Creed Unity, a game with a stupidly high number of NPCs, and an even higher number of bugs and shit that sucked. Now this would have been the day that Assassin's Creed Shadows would have come out. Lol, it got delayed. Get ready for it to get delayed again. And it's also Valentine's Day, which obviously I'll be super busy hanging out with hot women, haha, yeah, totally. But if you want a game, perhaps after you beat Pirate Yakuza, or maybe even before you start playing it, well, I have just the game for you. If you've watched my channel, no, I'm not actually gonna pull a fast one on you this time and say Final Fantasy 16, although I would of course still recommend it. Instead, I'm gonna suggest the successor to Black Flag that was initially locked behind the PS3 and Xbox 360 and sort of treated as the poor man's option to Assassin's Creed Unity. It's a fantastic game with many improvements over Black Flag, like how I don't even remember if there's a single tailing mission. It's also a short and simple game, and not some overly bloated 5 million hour mess like Ubisoft seems to think people want. It truly was the last time they ever put an effort with the Assassin's Creed franchise. To everyone watching this part of the video, perhaps today, perhaps tomorrow, whenever you want, at some point, do yourself a favor and experience a shockingly good game called Assassin's Creed Rogue. No, but seriously, Sega, just give me the game already, please!